see this whole pandemic a little bit differently, how it can originate from an emotional trauma, an emotional conflict, things hidden happening underneath the surface on many different levels. Again, stay with me if this is sounding a little too woo-woo to you, because it really is a time, yes, to bond with our families, but also to bond with ourselves, but in a different way, in a more loving way, in a more Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Whole Wellness Method video. I am Lita Sportel at the upcoming litashealing.com and founder of the Whole Wellness Method. And in this video, we are continuing our discussion on getting through the coronavirus crisis with you. And in particular, I want to share with you about an interesting field of medicine called the German New Medicine and the recall healing that can help us right now see this whole pandemic a little bit differently. And a special thank you to my wonderful acupuncturist who has brought this whole new field of medicine to my attention. And it's very, very interesting when you look into that field and how over years and years and years of research, they found how an emotional conflict and a shock and some traumas and some emotional things that we experience that we can't quite process, what that does to our brain and how then it correlates with certain illnesses and cancers and other diseases that we then manifest on a physical level, but how it can originate from an emotional trauma, an emotional conflict. Now, this is not new stuff. We talk about this through my psychology videos, through the Dr. Joe Dispenza videos, through I just recently did one on how Louise Hay is helping us look at the situation. So none of this is new things. The only thing that's different about this particular modality is that there's the science there that they've done over hundreds and thousands of patients where they actually looked at the brains and what is happening in the brain depending on that emotional trauma and how then that correlates to a specific organ and a specific disease in the body. So there's quite a bit of research behind this that is very interesting to me. Whenever there is research, I am all for it because I like to back things up with science. So what I want to discuss today is the infectious disease aspect of how they are approaching what infectious disease means, the flu. And although there's not one in particular for the coronavirus, I feel like we could do, we could extrapolate a lot of interesting messages from just the flu and the infectious disease that they have in this particular book of recall healing. So for infectious disease, they talk about it coming from a conflict around separation. And if you think of that, I've been talking about that a lot. We've been in a world of separation, and especially the last few years, there's been so much division and polarity in everything, whether it's with our government or with between countries, between families, between couples, between every single between ourselves and conflict within ourselves. So on all different levels of society, there's been division, there's been separation. So there's that intense conflict going on. And it's possible that that conflict, there was so much tension that now it kind of is manifesting on the global level through this whole pandemic, not because things need to get worse, but because it's time to, that thing is all breaking out this way, that way we can resolve it. So it's a strong belief I have that all this is coming to the surface like that because there were unspoken, unseen things hidden happening underneath the surface on many different levels again that now are coming to the surface. So that conflict of separation, now I feel it's showing up a lot more in order for it to get resolved. And so the interesting thing about what recall healing says here about the flu, so the infectious disease was the separation conflict, but the flu, which means, all the people who are sick, is the way I'm taking this and applying it to this situation. So all the people that are getting this sickness, although it's not the actual flu, but it's another form of an epidemic and pandemic of that a virus is causing. And even the people who are not getting sick, there's this, what they say is this is the recovery phase of general human conflict related to territory. It's a recovery phase of feeling that separation. So there's been that separation, and now we are in the recovery phase where, stay with me if this is sounding a little too woo-woo to you, and I get that. But what's interesting, again, is that we can listen to these concepts, we can filter them through what we know, we can open up to things we don't know, and then we can be, curious and say, could this be something possible? And so there was this intense separation. Now it's breaking out, and we are in the recovery phase, although it doesn't seem like we're recovering quite yet. And that they're saying here that notice when the flu is around. Usually it is after there's been a lot of gatherings like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Well, this whole thing broke out right before Christmas in December. And then it got obviously a lot worse in the new year, and then spread throughout the world. And so there's been that, other than the gathering on the level of just the families, there's been this sense of, I don't want to share the same air with you. There's been this sense of, I can't stand it, we can't stand each other. So we needed, in a sense, these boundaries. We needed that space collectively to be able to recover. And so usually when the flu is around, is again, we've been together really close to each other, and now we all need our space. We can't handle each other anymore. And then we recover through that flu that really is forcing us to isolate, because when we're sick, we don't want to see anybody. We don't want to be social. We don't want to even talk to anybody. We just want to be in bed and recover. So it's interesting to think about that on a global level. What are we trying to recover from? What is the potential correction here that's going on from all that separation? And maybe needing our space collectively, because when in the history of humankind have we been all forced to shut down everything almost, other than essential stuff, and be at home and not do anything? Never. So that global sense of really taking a break from the routine, taking a break from everything we've been doing, could be seen as a recovery phase, whether we're sick or not. Hopefully we're not sick, but it's still a recovery phase we're going through where we're getting our space. And maybe you're thinking, well, I'm not getting my space because now I gotta be at home with my partner and my kids or whoever it is that I live with, and I don't get any space. Well, I have another video on how to claim that space that you need for yourself to go through that recovery without having to be sick. That you don't need to, even if you are in an environment with your family, that you still can get that space that you need. Because it really is a time, yes, to bond with our families, but also to bond with ourselves and to really go through that healing process. Because they're very clear that flu, and I extrapolate that into the pandemic and the symptoms that are like the flu, is a recovery phase. And bringing our awareness into that process contributes to quicker healing. So the faster we can bring that awareness that this is all for healing, all this crisis is a paradoxical way that's pointing us towards healing globally. If we can start on an individual level doing that healing work, then I think we're gonna recover from all this a lot faster. So again, although this is not written specifically to the coronavirus, see how much this correlates and have an open mind and see if this resonates with you, and if we can actually use this time to move from that separation to the recovery phase of that conflict of needing our territory and claiming our territory, which is, yes, let's do that. Let's use this time to heal within ourselves and claim our territory and our space, because we are forced right now to not be around each other than our family. And then once we emerge from this and the deeper work we can do, then we can emerge from this renewed, and then we can associate with each other in a different way, not in a separated, angry, judgmental, egotistical, selfish, so on and so forth way, but in a different way, in a more loving way, in a more compassionate, kind way. So that's what I had to share with you in this video using German New Medicine and Recall Healing in terms of how we understand this whole pandemic. And this is a wonderful work. So if you are struggling with any other health conditions, sometimes I use this with my clients. We look into this book and we see some of these chronic conditions, what they correlate with, and they're right on sometimes. It's like, that's exactly what is going on in my life. And once they start healing that, then the disease also starts healing, as well as all the root cause work that we do with functional medicine. So it's all working, all these different pieces together, and this coronavirus crisis is no exception. We need all these different pieces that we can put together to heal from this. So I will see you next time, leaving you in whole wellness. Bye-bye.